So we're going to go into the evening session now, talk about Nike. This is kind of an in-depth process into what I do, what I think commercial directors do as well. You'll have a much better understanding of how the creative process is within a commercial. This is the Nike spot, Flyknit. They had engaged me to direct this along with Paul Shearer, a veteran director with the same production company I'm part of called Great Guns. It was a fantastic collaboration. I had a blast. Really fantastic for me to work with someone like him who's worked for a lot more time in the business than I have, done quite a few Nike commercials. My role in this was to kind of be brought in some of the newer technology like the Movi, Fast Movement, the Phantom, and try to collaborate with him in what was one of the most technically difficult commercials that most of our people on this set ever engaged in, because we didn't have time to do CGI or corrections. Everything you're going to see in the spot is actually shot in camera. That was the difficulty. There's no time to correct mistakes. There's no time to do CGI or repositioning or cleanup. You're seeing pretty much the exact same thing that we shot in camera. Just take 90 seconds here and check it out. So thank you. Let's walk you through how this whole process started. This started one day. I got this email from my production company. The biggest difference I can tell you between being a commercial photographer and a commercial director is that as a commercial photographer, it's pretty common to have agencies and clients looking through the web to find photographers they like, and from there to go ahead and select people that they want to try and get on a certain campaign. What differentiates still photography from video is a lot of it has to do with what production company you work with and who the production company knows. A lot more to do with relationships. And obviously, you'll start off working for yourself. You'll try to get noticed and picked up by a smaller production company that eventually goes to a medium-sized production company, and so on and so on. Very logical, step-by-step. You're not going to get a Nike commercial, generally speaking, with one YouTube video, right? It's going to be a lot more procedural than that. That being said, you can be found on YouTube, you can be found on Vimeo. It's just kind of like playing Russian roulette. But understand that for me, it took about 6 years to get to the level where I got this chance, and I feel very fortunate for it. I was in the middle of actually shadowing David Nutter on Shameless. I was pretty busy, working 14-hour days doing that. And you have to take these opportunities. You have to go for it. And I scribbled some notes, my little moleskin, and I set up a call. Emailed Adam and Tim Sheridan and said, let's aim for a conference call tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. One of them was in Tokyo, one of them in London. Just get that going. We go ahead and set up the conference call. I basically go ahead and pitch in my idea. That was loosely something that made it into the final concept, talking about the Movi and the ability to move the camera in certain ways that we haven't seen before. Adam emailed me back, looked at the links that I sent him as I followed up for email, talked about some spots that he's had, and said how he was interested. And as far as I knew, that was it. Next day, I get a call from my executive producer. Hey, Vincent. Hey, mate. Are you available as of tomorrow straight for 2 months? Excuse me? Sure. You think I'll be able to get a few days off at Christmas? Hey, mate, I can't promise. Frankly, it's unlikely. Are you in or out? That's how it happens. Just like that, you're working straight for 2 months without a break. There goes Christmas. There goes everything. And guess what? That's what we live for. I get stuck with the budget, which means I get to work on actually pulling out every single number with my line producer, Greg, who is a veteran line producer, a fantastic guy to work with. I worked with him as a line producer before, as well as a first AD. And we have to go for every single line item. So you can't win the job with just your idea. You also have to submit a budget. And you're going to compete with several other production companies that have their ideas as well as their budget. Make sense? So it's a multi-pronged approach. Who are they in the budget? This is stand-ins and other people. Locations, basketball court, country trail, what kind of forest? We're shooting in LA. In other words, there's no forest. Indoor track, urban street, speed training with Sprague parachute, phantom. Love the Sherlock Holmes reference from the normal speed to high speed to normal speed. In other words, the ramping. Got it. I think a solution for the transition since there's no post time. Can the phantom go on the Movi? I call free fly and say, can you fly a Phantom Flex? No, we can fly a Miro. So we know that's an option now. Transitions. This is the biggest question. How are these done? Are they seamless with CGI? There's no post time. Are they cuts? Motion control. Don't think there's enough money for that. Hide the transition with a hard cut. Post. Can we do a call with the VFX house to discuss the transitions, what's possible and within the budget? New budget. I would love to give you one, but until there's a solution to how the transition happen, I'm a little apprehensive to do one. I can produce anything, but I need a little guidance here. Kobe budget. Is Nike providing the arena or recommending an arena in LA? The big arenas are super expensive and come with a lot of their other costs. Are there extras in the background or in post? What kind of move is Kobe making? Do we need a stunt basketball coordinator? I think so. What's the overall shot per the director, like the iconic Jonathan Glazer, Michael Jordan shot? What are the Kobe's demands? Makeup, person, hair, personnel, security. Bottom line, until I know how the directors want to do the transition, I do not know how to move forward with a budget. God, have I asked enough questions? This is day 2. I have to answer all these now so we can do a budget. You understand the pressure starting to build, right? I don't know half the answers to these questions. I can tackle the creative ones. This is a standard AICP bid. You can see just a standard way of doing a budget. A lot of work that's being done before you ever get the job is the key. You're almost producing the entire job before you get it. It's part and parcel of this career and this job. Here's some of our equipment. Generally speaking, the equipment is the smallest part of your budget. In a big motion picture, they spend less than 1% of their budget on cameras, which is why when someone walks up to me and says, hey, you're shooting this commercial, or hey, you're shooting this shorter film, what camera are you using? I'm like, you clearly have no understanding what the process is, do you? Has nothing to do with the camera, has nothing to do with frame rates or resolution. That is not what makes a commercial or a film. Get over it. Move on. Talk about the more important stuff. It actually irritates me, in case you can't tell, because I know that people just don't understand at all what they're talking about when that's the first question out of their mouth. Should be more like, what's the story? How are you shooting it? Is it interesting? Is it new? Is it different? You get the idea. We then go into visual references. I'll pull some visual references together from the internet, Google Images, whatever. This is not being published. It's just a matter of sending some ideas of how I see the light, how I see the visuals. Paul and I did this together. We sent it into the client. Just give them kind of an idea. We also put forth a DP that we both like, Pete Kongsel, in this case, fantastic guy, has done some Nike commercials in the past, has done a lot of high-speed work, and has been able to do like a very similar arcing commercial going through the fabric of this spot right here of this model. So we know he's done something similar before, and that's why he gets picked as our DP. Talking a little about the process. Again, when I get a commercial, the first thing I think of is what's the story. I look at the brand and style of Nike. Obviously, they're not going to be handheld and grainy and dirty. That's not Nike's image. It's very clean, it's very specific, it's very stylized. Keep that in mind. I'll dream big. I try not to let the realities of the budget clamp down on me too early in the process. That's for the line producers to do, and my producers say, Vincent, you got to back off. First, they want you to dream big. They want you to have original ideas and not worry about the budget initially. Previs, I'll go ahead and do storyboards. Some people that you're going to be competing with will actually shoot an entire section of the commercial or the film as an example. They'll actually render an entire previs of the commercial as well, just to show how dedicated they are to really communicate their vision. So when you hand in a 7-page or 20-page treatment versus someone who's actually shot an entire piece for it, you can see how you're at a disadvantage, right? But that's what's being done. That's who you're competing against, just so you know. Then we adjust everything, we bring it back to earth based on the budget, and we set a plan for the shoot, and we submit everything. Luckily, we obviously got the job. We got the award. It's better than an award, like a plaque. You actually get to go out and shoot and execute your vision. Pretty awesome feeling. I go back to the budget now because I'm in real world now. I look at my talent availability. How much time do you think we have with each athlete? 4 hours? How about 45 minutes from the time they hit the set to the time their wheel's up? That's how much time we get. That's it. So we're going to make sure we get doubles to rehearse with. So by the time they show up, we've rehearsed every single move, all the lighting. They're going to be wearing the same wardrobe, going to have the same height, same every detail about them as possible, so there's no surprises when the actual athlete walks in. We're going to maximize everything we have to get the best quality work in a short period of time. Look at our calendar. We're going to talk about storyboards, different tests we can perform, and prep. Part of it, logistical process. We're going to go and scout as well as cast, and of course then execute. Go ahead, and now it's time for us to do some more management resources. I've got to look at the time I have with each athlete. That determines the complexity of the move, determines my location as well. What's the number one thing that kills productions? What you call a company move. The moment that you build somewhere, you shoot, and you pack everything up, put it back in the truck, drive away, park, unpack, rebuild, that kills you. So generally speaking, you want to limit it to 1 company move a day, 0 if possible, 2 at the worst. Anything more, you're not going to be able to pull off your production. Make sense? So don't ever set up 3 company moves in one day. You're very unlikely to ever make your day. Then that determines how much crew and gear that I need. And of course, that manages my expectations and the amount of money it's going to cost. This is all a big juggling trick. I'm being helped very closely by my line producer who's doing all the math with me, by my AD who's also working this out with me, and by the DP at this point to make sure we can manage to actually pull this off. Before they show up, I'm doing little sketches in my notebook. You can see the basketball court here with Kobe. Just as we've been doing all day, 101, 108, 101B, I'm sketching down the different shots, doing different moves with different cameras, different platforms, looking at the overall arc of the move, writing little things like shapes down here, and talking about ending on the right foot or the left foot. Why is that important? Because of the logo of the shoe. If you flip it, the logo is right side up or left side right, whatever you want to call it, upside down basically. So we've got to keep that in mind. I'm just making little sketches at night in between all these meetings, in between all the casting sessions. We did several hundred locations that were being scouted, literally several hundred. I have to look at every one of them and write down what I like or don't like about it. It goes through a big email chain. At the same time, I'm doing these little sketches when I find some free time. This is Mo Farah in the forest. You can see we start on the foot strike, go around in 180 or 270, bring a little helo maybe, and do a little dolly or slider at the end. The problem with this move is you see the length of that? No way you're going to get around that at 500 frames a second. It's going to take way, way, way too long. Here's some more sketches over here. This is going to be Ashton Eaton. I'm going to want to try and put a technocrane on a track so that the camera can fly over the hurdles, precede or lead the actor or the athlete, come around the other side, and do a locked off shoe for the impact. The moves are relatively simple compared to the others. That's realistic. The problem is they decide they don't want him on hurdles. So all that goes out the window. In the same way that Allison Felix was supposed to have a Sprague parachute behind her, I saw that Movi had a little vehicle, like a little remote control car, and that was going to be this big arc. And if we didn't have that, a smaller arc. And here's the motion here again. Again, doing little notes about the landing on the right foot and shooting it from a profile versus straight on, because I have to do 3 different cuts, 2 30s and 1 90. And the idea is that the athletes change order based on the cut. So the athlete's movement has to seamlessly go into the next athlete's in 3 different ways every time. Do you understand, like the Rubik's Cube that you're doing in your brain? It's getting painful up here. But if you write it down and you go through the work and make sure it works, you won't have horrible surprises in the edit, where one athlete's going this direction and the next direction they're going that way, and you're like, who thought of this? Who made this colossal mistake? And the truth is it's you, the director. So, because you have to do your homework. This is why I value pre-production so much. This is 95% of what I do, is prep. I didn't used to like it. I love it now. because I can work out all my problems at my own pace. Whereas on set, there's no time to fix things. So there we go with Allison. I'm going to go ahead and do some tests. Here we are. This is my backyard in my office. I want to try some of this stuff. This is shot on an Epic at 250 frames a second on a Movi. So I'm going ahead and shoot this 1, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8. The cut works, right? Okay. The problem is each of these moves is taking close to 10 seconds at half the rate of what we're going to shoot, which means each of these moves is taking 9 to 10 seconds times 2, 18 to 20 seconds. I've got a 30-second spot. Not going to work. What does that mean? I have to either change the moves, simplify them, or ramp them up and down, or cut in between. Make sense? So just going off of that, we adjust. We use the DP7 small HD to take snapshots of the foot so we can line them up for the next foot. Because keep in mind, all the shoes have to match perfectly. They're different colors, different sizes, different movement of the athlete. You still have to cut on that impact, because trying to do it in midair is crazy. All right? Keep going here. Do some more tests. We're trying to see how these transitions work. We measure everything so that once we see a result of a test, we knew what all the camera settings were. Makes sense? You don't want to shoot stuff and not have detailed notes. This is what your first AC would do, or second AC, and take notes on every single distance lens so that when you go to the take that did work versus the one that didn't work, you can look at what you did. You're not going to remember this. Make sense? Here is more tests, different frame rates, different shutter angles, different NDs and apertures. The idea here is we're afraid of strobing because of how rich that shoe is. So what we don't want to have happen is what's happening here at 90-degree shutter, at a 90-degree shutter on the shoe. Take a look at this. Look at how the shoe, we're shooting the shoe with a wide shot, a medium shot, and a tight shot. That impacts on how fast the shoe moves for frame in different lenses. Look at the strobing. You see that? You cannot remove that in post. You can, but it's extremely expensive and difficult. So we know that at 90 degrees, it's too stroby. At 360, it's too blurry. Even at 1,000 frames a second, that the magic number is a 180-degree shutter. Nothing new, but we did the test. Fair enough? Then we're going to do one more test where we try to do this. The difficulty is I have to, at this point, if we're trying to do one-shots, start the runner right as she hits with her right foot. Not the left foot, a different type of looking shoe from the inside. I have to match my vehicle to start at the back of the room with her, speed up, and they have to be perfectly aligned for a few seconds so that she can hit this mark with the camera right on her foot. Then it pulls out, goes all the way around her to the other side as she jumps over and lands on the left foot. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Just talking about it. That was the original plan. Start back there, 37 feet, go over here, go all the way around, 13 and a half feet on a 50. Nuts. Here are some of the rules that I commit to in my little notebook. I commit to start and end points, to always going counterclockwise, to arcs of top-down motion, to a consistent speed whenever possible, to loops in motion crossing back and front. Always stay constant speed or accelerate, never decelerate. I don't want to fall behind people because you see their butt or the bottom of their shoe. Never slow down or fall behind. Action itself always moves counterclockwise in an arc if possible, or opposite question mark. Action never stops. The fewest beats as possible. The idea is we're ramping, right? So if we're doing 7 or 8 strides, we speed through that, it looks like an animation, like a cartoon. It looks silly. So I want to try to capture as few strides as possible, which is why I say zoom out eliminates number of strides. I know that the amount of time it takes to go from a shoe, a close-up of a shoe, and physically pull a camera back all the way on the same focal length to show a full body, it's going to take you a while. And when you speed that up in post, it's going to take you forever. So I say we have to pull back and zoom out. Want to try and do 320-degree moves always. Never have any physical obstacles. Rhythm of motion is key. Cut on motion movement. Let movement motivate or counter physical athlete's movement. Okay? This is my scribble of what turned out to be very similar to the Richard Sherman sequence. But you'll notice the language I'm using. I'm not an artist, clearly, but it's a language we've been doing all day. Close-up of foot with phantom, on techno as we pull back and pan right, boom up ramp, and release athlete on an overhead general view running upstairs. Wide of 3/4 of runner, techno phantom, arc right and pan right until it meets with foot on phantom. Cut to head on medium reverse of athlete running towards camera with huge intensity on face as camera starts a boom down and slight pan right, 3/4 foot end shot with both ways. Okay? So all the language we're talking about today helps me write these storyboards down, helps me work it out in my brain. It's not pretty, no one cares. It's just a matter that I'm working it out for myself so that when it comes down to the day of the shoot, I'm ready. Here we are scouting. This is what the reality of scouting is like.
Shit we do for a living.
My line producer, Greg.
Are we good?
Keep going.
And Adam, who's flown in from London.
How you doing there, Adam?
I'm enjoying America.
Well, you certainly brought the weather with you.
DUI.
We're having fun. The reality is we don't have people holding grapes for us and moving stuff for us. Just all of us, a group of people. We enjoy working together. Nike really wants to have stadium seating for us. What's the problem with doing that with Richard Sherman?
What's that?
What's the problem with using stadium seating? What's the challenge? Where do you put the camera, right? Just a little anecdote. We're shooting this piece here, doing some fun scouting just for us, and the next thing happens. Young guy hands me his iPhone and says, "Hey, do you mind taking a selfie of us?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." And next thing you know, he's doing this. Holding his girlfriend. That was a nice little moment. All I can think of at the time is Prince Charles. But it was a sweet moment nonetheless.
Sorry, we don't normally cry.
I'm also saying to myself, he got a really good rate. Here's my shot list. So I'm going to go ahead and write down every single shot based on the storyboards that I need. This is the shot in terms of what I need, 1A, 1B, etc. As it was boarded, I put down the shot size, wide master, medium wides, medium close-up, extreme close-up, the action, shoe strike from 3/4 front of foot looking down back to match Allison outro. So you got to match the intros to the outros, remember? The move, cable cam falling top down towards court with pan right to left, medium level left to right, pull away from shoe, the type of camera, Epic or Phantom, the platform, cable cam, Movi, Steadicam, Technocrane, Cinebag, ATV plus jib, ATV plus steady. You get the idea, right? Lots of organization, write it down on paper because you don't want to be figuring this out the day of the set, the day that you're on set. You're going to go crazy. So you have a clear plan. My first AD takes this list, makes our final schedule based off of it. Here's some Instagram pics from the shoot. Here we are on a little vehicle with a jib on it and a motorized head. That's our key grip, our first AC, Pete the DP, second AC, and driver. Here's our monster camera. Here it is again. You'll notice there's Rich Moriarty there, sitting with a Movi, just like we're doing here with the camera A and camera B. So camera B picks up whatever it can. Camera A is the main camera. If camera A gets in the way of camera B, that's okay. Just live with it. Here we are at the stadium with Richard Sherman. Again, on the hill with Mo Farah, Richard at the back of the vehicle, 2 for the price of 1. Here we are with Richard Sherman, actually tech scouting here. We've got to figure out exactly where to put the base of the Technocrane. You can't move a Technocrane around once it's set, right? We've got to build a platform. And we calculate that if we have 7 people, it will take them 4 hours to take a Technocrane apart and rebuild it, and then another 4 hours to take it apart and take it away. Or we can hire a crane, which is ultimately what we did. We set the base of the Technocrane. Once that's set, it can never move. So you have to calculate the entire arc of the move, understand that a Technocrane doesn't arc. It extends, retracts, and extends again, and you're going to have to do that whole move to make it look like an arc. It's very complicated. You have to know exactly how far it can extend and work your way backwards towards where the base should be to make it as easy as possible on the operators. Make sense? That's what you do on Tech Scout on the day of. Of course, they go ahead and lower the Technocrane into the stadium. This was not cheap. Here we are the morning of, but it was cheaper and more efficient than doing it with crew because things can go wrong. We added 24 lights around the stadium so that you can appreciate motion. Because if you shoot Kobe Bryant on a black background, you really can't tell that he's moving. So we add the lights in there. We build a softbox to make that shot happen. Here we are in the Techno again, the 150 Master Prime, and the Phantom, as well as the Movi. Using every trick in the book. Then I go a little crazy. I stole this from Rodrigo Prieto and Oliver Stone. They'd done this for a World Cup commercial. And I said, hey, let me dangle a Movi on a rope. Movi on a rope. All right, so finally, we execute. Go ahead and shoot this. This is a little time lapse. You can see the big crane. Just lowered the small crane in there. See the stage we built. Here we are at the stadium. You can see us building the softbox. We've put flooring on there so we don't damage the court. A lot of work. Go ahead and go back here. Same thing with atmospheric in there, a little haze so you can appreciate the light beams. And finally, here we are back at the stadium, showing you how much activity is going on before the sun ever rises. All right, and you can see the arc and the move on the Techno. Here's what it looked like on the day of. So here's a rare behind-the-scenes view that shows you just how fast the Techno crane has to move. Because think about it, at 20 times real time, it feels very slow, even though you're moving the camera very violently. Here's what the behind-the-scenes looks like.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Standing by. This is the first take. George Rose, one. Here we go. We are rolling camera.
So when you play this back at 20 times real time, this is what you see. Looks like he's not even moving, let alone the camera. So that was the challenge of the commercial. When you're shooting at that rate, you have to make sure to ramp it up and down and select the best pieces, have lots of movement in your camera, you'll never notice it. Pretty scary how it's just basically running in place. So at the end of this, understand the amount of points of failure that I have here. I've got a key grip that is booming up and down and arcing at the same time on a platform. I've got another person, this is number 2, who is extending and retracting the Techno crane. I've got a third person on wheels doing panning and tilting. I've got a fourth person on a zoom control, zooming the lens in and out. I've got a fifth person pulling focus at FT 2.8 for split. I've got a sixth person, in this case, the AD, calling the action. I've got a seventh person, the Phantom Tech, who's starting and stopping the camera. If he forgets to stop the camera 12 seconds, the camera starts erasing the first part of the 12 seconds. And then the last person, of course, is Richard Sherman, who's neither an actor, he's an athlete. So I've got 8 points of failure on this shot. So when you nail one, you see how there were, when we had 3 points of failure here, it's a whole other level. And as you watch the screen as a director, you have to make sure, like, what's going wrong? Is it the booming? Is it the extension? Is it the pan and tilt head? Understand how complex that gets. At the end of that, we've done a good job. We have 1 minute left, and I look at my crew and I look at Richard and say, you guys want to go for gold? And they're like, what do you mean? What have you been doing all day? This is crazy. I'm like, no, I want to go even tighter. And I say to Richard, who's been so pumped the entire time, he loves the stuff, I said, do you want to go ahead and try something really difficult? He's like, absolutely. I say, when I call action, I want you to roar like a lion. And we're going to shoot you with like a 135. We're going to shoot you really tight. He's like, cool, let's do it. We tried doing it, running in place, and you can see he wasn't moving. So I told my team, guys, we got a small chance of pulling us off, but let's give it a go. You guys have been amazing all day. And we go ahead and shoot this one sequence, one shot, last shot of the day, for the first half of the day, actually, with Richard. And here's what turned out at 500 frames a second. And I'm praying the entire time, because I know I don't have a second take. I'm like, oh, yes, oh, no. Oh, no. Well, I've got hair, and now he's going soft. I'm like, oh, man. And then I see the neck. I'm like, oh, almost, but I can't see his eye. And then, just as I'm about to give up, this happens right here. This small little section is all you need. And I had it. We had it. We were all like, yes, at the end of it. It felt awesome. Here is the final spot. So hopefully you have a better understanding of how much work is put into these commercials. I'm going to play this last little clip here because it makes me laugh. Hopefully I'll get a chuckle out of you. But we're done for the day. We do a little Q&A now. So with that, we're done. Thanks very much for coming today. Thank you.